the second officer asked. Well, for one thing, her body would be at rest at that angle only if she had a number of broken bones, Captain Marino said. I'm sure even you took note of that, Enrico. Yes, sir, I did, Enrico said. But she could have fallen, tripped, and landed hard enough to break a bone or two. Perhaps, Captain Marino said, moving away from the two officers and standing in the center of the road. But those two black skid marks tell me otherwise. If you compare them to the others on the road, you'll notice they are darker and deeper. That tells me they're fresh skid marks, which might mean the woman's body was dumped or tossed from a car. She hit the ground hard, causing additional damage to her body. She is someone without a name, Franco said. We didn't want to touch the body until the medical examiner signed off, but we looked for a bag or a purse, and there wasn't any to be found. She has a name, Captain Marino said. We just don't know it yet. He turned to gaze out at the harbor below, where the first of the morning tourist boats were starting to head out for their trip around the island, and a packed hydrofoil was coming in to drop off another batch of guests. It was the second week of July, and the tourists had been arriving in numbers far greater than any previous year. Marino had been stationed in Ischia for 6 years now, and was still surprised by the thousands who flocked to the island each season. Ischia, 18 miles off the Naples coast, had been, since the late 1960s, a prime vacation destination for a devoted number of Northern Italian, German, British, and American tourists who packed its many restaurants and beaches and enjoyed the supposedly healing powers of the thermal spas spread across the large island. Captain Marino was in his mid-30s, slim with light brown razor-cut hair, and, when the occasion called for it, a warm and engaging smile. He was engaged to a local girl he had planned to marry the previous fall. The wedding had been postponed, however, due to a family illness. It was now set for the following fall, weeks after the last of the tourists had left the island, and he planned to make Ischia his permanent home, providing his superiors didn't have another transfer in mind. He was a Northern Italian who had grown to love the island and its many customs and traditions, but was still regarded with suspicion by many of the locals. Over time, he was ever so slowly building up goodwill and trust among people who gave out such feelings with great reluctance. Canvass the area. Talk to as many of the locals as you can, he said to the two officers. Focus on the ones who live close by. Maybe one or two heard something or, with luck, saw something. Perhaps they might have a clue as to who this woman is or where she came from. Not exactly a pleasant way to begin a new day, Enrico said, looking back at the crowd, grown larger since he had first come onto the scene. Captain Marino looked at Enrico for a moment and then turned and stared at the body of the dead woman lying on the side of the quiet road. Or to end one, he said in a low voice. 2. Nonna Maria stood in front of the glass butcher's counter in the open-air market of the port. It was early morning, and the large space was already filled with shoppers, mostly locals buying what they needed for the afternoon meal, and a handful of tourists who wandered through more out of curiosity than need. Behind the counter, a tall young man was running a thick slab of prosciutto through the slicing machine. "I like it thin, Raphael," Nonna Maria said to the young man, "but not so thin that the slices stick to the paper. That happened to me last time I was here. Took more time to free the slices than it did to make the panini." "It's not my fault, Nonna Maria," Raphael said with a smile. "This machine has a mind of its own. It cuts the way it wants to cut." "Then you should put the machine aside and cut the slices with the knife," Nonna Maria said. "The way your father used to do. He had the surgeon's touch." It was easier for him to pay attention.